Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. There's no way you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All together now. All you need is love. Everybody. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. 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 All you need. Love is all you need. Yes, it can. Love is all you need. Love is all you need. Love is all you need.
If I can reach the stars, pull one down to you, shining on my heart, so you could see the truth. Then this love I have inside is everything it seems. But for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I'll be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. If I could be king even for a day. I take you as my queen. I'd have no other way. And our love will rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good, baby. If I could change the world, baby, if I could change the world.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. It's so great to have you with us today as we officially kick off the 2021 Heartball of Austin campaign. My name is Jim Koloff, and I'm the Regional Vice President here in Austin for Texas Mutual. I also have the privilege of serving as the 2021 Heartball Co-Chair, along with longtime AHA volunteer Greg Houston. Though I've been volunteering with the Heartball for more than 4 years, my connection to cardiovascular disease stretches back over 30 years to when my father had his first cardiac event. My passion for the AHA continues to this day as I watched my younger brother battle his own cardiovascular issues, combined with earlier this year fighting through COVID-19, which included 5 days in an intensive care unit. So as you might guess, supporting the mission of AHA is very near and dear to my own heart. Today's community launch is an opportunity to bring together Heartball supporters for a discussion about the American Heart Association and its impact in the community, specifically around COVID-19. By the end of our time together today, you'll understand why the AHA is invested in COVID-19 pandemic, how your past Heartball support makes this possible, and finally, I know you'll be inspired to join us in 2021 if you haven't already. Well, I know all of you would love to listen to me throughout the entire event, except for maybe my family that's watching. I think you'll be as excited as I am to welcome this group of fantastic guest speakers joining us today. We have Dr. Amin Al-Hamad, a cardiologist at St. David's Healthcare and president for the AHA Board of Directors. Dr. Philip B. Adamson, Chief Medical Officer for Abbott and past president for the AHA Board of Directors in Oklahoma. And Dr. Mariel Jessup, Chief Science and Medical Officer for the American Heart Association. And finally, we look forward to recognizing our 2021 sponsors, so be sure to stay tuned in for that. Now you might be thinking to yourself, I'm already familiar with the Heartball campaign. Or maybe you've even attended the event in past years. But as we all know by now, 2020 has had a way of mixing things up just a little bit for all of us. Greg and I are excited to pivot the Heartball from a once-a-year event to a year-round campaign with multiple engagements, culminating with the actual Heartball on May 1st. This means we will have more opportunities to come together, to engage with each other and with the mission of AHA. These challenges allow us to expand the traditional Heartball from beyond a table at one of Austin's premier galas to a year-round campaign, bringing the critical work and resources of the AHA to life in a tangible and meaningful way. Thank you again for joining us in this critical endeavor. Just a couple housekeeping items, so you are sure not to miss a beat throughout the program. Please ensure you're using the chat function and that you've selected all panelists and attendees. Second, we know how busy you all are, so we promise to wrap up by 12:45, and we are so very grateful that you've made time to join us today. And now I'd like to introduce my friend and fellow 2021 Heartball co-chair, Greg Houston. Greg, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Jim. And thank you again to each of you for being here today. First off, I'd like to apologize for the bandages all over my face. My dermatologist, Dr. Scissorhands, had her way with me last Friday. So, but it's all good. Glad to be here, and I just say wear your sunscreen. My name is Greg Houston. I'm Vice President of Operations for J. Dunn Construction here in Austin. And I want to echo what Jim said. It is a privilege to be your 2021 Heartball co-chair. And we look forward to sharing with you today how your support really makes the AHA mission possible. I personally have been volunteering for the Heart Association for about 13 years, first in Kansas City and the last 6 or 7 years in Austin. My connection and passion for the Heart Association is very personal to me. My son was born with a very serious congenital heart defect that he had repaired at 2 weeks old. And he is now a very happy and healthy 18-year-old. 2.5 years later, we had a daughter that was born that they think she had a stroke in utero. So she has many challenges that are lifelong challenges and has impacted our family greatly. But I know that the past years of funding and research that has been funded by folks like you for the Heart Association has presented great outcomes for my son, and look forward to future growth in that area. Now, before we move any further, I want to recognize the 2021 Heartball's presenting sponsor, St. David's Healthcare. This is the 11th year that St. David's has served as the presenting sponsor for Heartball. It's really incredible for their support, and thank you, St. David's, for your continued leadership and support of the American Heart Association's mission. Now, while we will be recognizing all the 2021 Heartball sponsors later in the program, I do want to quickly thank our other leading sponsors that have committed thus far. Texas Mutual Insurance Company, J.E. Dunn Construction Company, Ranger Excavating, the Porter Company, DPR Construction, and our Life is Why sponsors, Ascension Seton and Texas Mutual. Now, Jim and I are lucky to have a very committed team of volunteers serving alongside us this year. We could not do it alone. So I want to thank the 2021 Heartball Executive Leadership Team members, which you should be able to see on your screen here. These volunteers really serve as advocates for the Heart Association's life-saving mission in our community. And I want to thank each of you for your leadership on the ELT. Now, with that said, I want to thank you once again for joining us and for your support of the Heartball campaign. To kick things off so that you can hear more about the life-saving work of the Heart Association, I'd like to introduce our first guest speaker, Dr. Amin Al-Ahmad. Dr. Al-Ahmad is the president of the AHA Board of Directors in Austin, and he's a cardiac electrophysiologist at Texas Cardiac Arrhythmia with St. David's Healthcare. So Dr. Al-Ahmad, thank you so much for your time today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg and Jim. I'm really honored to be here with you today. And on behalf of the AHA Board of Directors, I'd like to thank you, Jim and Greg, for leading the Heartball campaign this year as co-chairs. And thank you also to the executive leadership team members. We couldn't really ask for a more committed or passionate group of volunteers. The American Heart Association is deeply concerned about the public health crisis facing our country. Our top priority regarding COVID-19 is the health and well-being of individuals and their families today and in the future, in every community, everywhere. Since the start of the pandemic, research about how the virus can impact patients with cardiovascular disease has been rapid and continuous, but there's still much to learn. What we do know is that vascular inflammation and injury to the heart appear to be common elements of the virus, occurring in at least 20% of hospitalized patients and contributing to up to 40% of deaths. We're seeing research that indicates that COVID-19 may be leading to a new crop of heart patients too. Now, while most persons with COVID-19 recover and return to normal health, some patients can have symptoms that last for weeks or even months after recovery from acute illness. Heart attacks, acute coronary syndromes, myocarditis, and even arrhythmias have been reported in these patients. Clearly, additional scientific research on COVID-19 and the heart and vascular system is needed. The American Heart Association has worked to help fill that need. Through the Heartball of Austin campaign, you will see the Heart Association's mission in action as we work aggressively to save lives. This means we need everyone here today to become involved. If you can volunteer, send an email, attend an event, or donate, our collective impact will make a difference. We will continue to seek new ways to address the cardiovascular complications of the virus through research and education of the public and professionals. The association's registry and other ongoing efforts, including additional research funding, will uncover novel ways to understand and treat this pandemic and its heart implications, and hopefully future diseases as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Philip Adamson of Abbott Laboratories. Abbott Laboratories has been a longtime supporter and partner of the AHA. For more than 130 years, Abbott has put science and innovation to work, creating more possibilities for more people through the power of health. Abbott is working to deliver better solutions to help people live their best lives. Today, Dr. Adamson will speak about Abbott's commitment to the AHA and our joint efforts to stop COVID-19. Dr. Adamson.
Well, thank you, Dr. Alamad, and thanks to the American Heart Association for having me today. It's quite an honor. As a matter of fact, I want to share just a moment of a personal gratitude to the American Heart Association, as the organization funded my research early on, actually back when I was in medical school, and set me along the pathway of the life I've lived. And so I have to always take a moment to say thank you to the American Heart Association for the funding, and thank you for the opportunities that I had as an investigator at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be here today. So if we could have my slide, I'd like to spend just a touch of time on what the COVID crisis really poses as a threat, how we test for things. And I will say that as an Abbott employee, I'm very honored, honestly, to be associated with some amazing scientists who in 6 months have developed 8 tests to diagnose various aspects of the COVID-19 syndrome. And it's just been amazing to watch. I'm not certainly a testing specialist, but to watch these folks do their work and do it so rapidly and so well it has been amazing to me. So if I could have the next slide, I think it's good for us to just kind of step back and say, what is this thing that has completely taken over our lives over the last 6 to 8 months? And how did it come about? So remember that a coronavirus is a virus that's associated with a specific family of viruses. Maybe fortunately, the previous members of the family who have visited have been somewhat benign. There are 4 viruses in this family that cause about a third of the common colds that we get as we live our lives in typically the winter time. But you may remember back in 2002, there was the severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, that broke out and affected a fair number of folks around the world. That was the SARS-CoV-1 virus. Then in 2012, the Middle East respiratory syndrome was caused by a coronavirus. So these are all viruses in the same RNA family, and that was the MERS-CoV-1 virus. If we go to the next slide, the one that's visiting now has been named the SARS, or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2, and is closely related to the other 2 that caused smaller pandemics in their time. This has been named the virus that causes the coronavirus disease of 2019, or COVID-19. So that's where all these names come from, and it was associated with unique cause of severe pneumonias initially it seems like years ago, quite frankly, but it was really only November, December of last year in China, rapidly moved to Western Europe and the United States. And of course, you know the history since then quite well. So next slide, we'll see a little bit about how this disease really does affect people, because what we hear many times in the media reflects the really bad disease. Fortunately, about 80%, just over 80% of people who are infected with this virus have a mild syndrome, don't require hospitalization. But when the disease sets the COVID-19 syndrome, severe and critical disease happens in around 19 to 20% of people, and has a very high mortality rate associated with a viral infection. And as Dr. Alamad mentioned, there's a lot of different things that happen when people get the severe and critical syndrome of COVID-19, including severe inflammation, blood clot formation that's abnormal, strokes, heart attacks, all the things that he mentioned. So the difficulty in this syndrome is the fact that there's so many people that can have an asymptomatic course and yet still shed viruses and still be infectious. So it's that kind of conundrum, a paradox of most people don't get really sick, but they do transmit the disease, and that transmission is responsible for many of the problems we've seen in our society over the last year. Interestingly, it's been less than a year. I'm sure it's hard for you to believe that. It's been less than a year. There have been over 12,000 scientific articles published about the COVID-19 syndrome, 12,000 or more actually now. Just to let you know, in science, to publish a peer-reviewed journal article is a big deal, and it takes a lot of effort, and the impact of that belies the fact that the scientists around the world have focused on trying to understand the disease, understand how to prevent the disease. But frankly, we've only been in this for a year. And as Dr. Jessup will mention, I think, we have a lot to learn over the next year or two as to what the longer term effects of this syndrome may be. So we could go to the next slide. Remember that there are individuals who have other medical problems that are at risk for the severe and critical portion or infection of this syndrome. And you see these diseases and syndromes mentioned here, like heart conditions, pre-existing heart conditions. Patients are very high risk, as well as other lung diseases, type 2 diabetes, thing we call metabolic syndrome, which is associated with diabetes, obesity, and hypertension. These folks tend to be the ones who are at higher risk for the development of the most severe part of a COVID-19 infection. Next slide, please. Transmission, I found probably the grossest picture on the internet for you here, but just to impress on your mind that when we do sneeze, and don't sneeze, as they say in the grocery store, to sneeze in your elbow, this is what happens. And so the sort of 6-foot rule comes from the idea that when we sneeze, we can push infectious stuff for 6 feet or more. And that can cause obvious transmission of the syndrome. Infected surfaces really have been described that have not been documented that much in terms of transmission of disease. And although domesticated animals and other wild animals have been associated with infection, the transmission of the disease is also very unclear in animals as well as infected surfaces. Next slide. So when we look at this infection or any viral infection, but let's look at this infection, there are several phases to the infection. I want to go through this because when we talk about testing, this is what testing is trying to evaluate. And I'm sure some of you have heard some conflicting things in the literature and the media about how tests and when they're good and when they're not good. It's really not good or bad. It's really, what is a test trying to do? So the early part of the infection, the incubation portion or the early acute phase of the infection is shown in this slide, really is associated with the virus getting into our cells, replicating its genome, replicating the proteins that build more viruses in order for it to use the host to replicate its lineage. And during that time, viral RNA, the genome of the virus, as well as the proteins associated with rebuilding the new viruses, can be detected by tests. And these tests are the ones that typically are the ones that tell us if we are infected currently and maybe even infectious. Now, interestingly, this syndrome tends to have a variable amount of viral shedding that can cause infections and transmission. But certainly the early phase, the viral detection phases, looks for a couple of things. One is the genome of the virus, and the other is the proteins that the virus sheds in order to build new viruses. These can be detected by specific tests. Next slide. As time goes by, we respond. Our immune system responds first with an elaboration of an antibody called IgM, and that starts to fight the battle. And the battle is fought, and the virus is defeated eventually, and we convalesce. So the late acute phase is associated with a appearance of antibodies. So when you hear about antibody tests are telling us that we are fighting or have fought the coronavirus that's causing COVID-19. So you can see that those specific antibodies can be detected by antibody tests that test the host's immune response. So these detection tests tell us if we've had the disease or if we're at the later part of an acute infection. If we go to the next slide, then our long-term immunity can be tested as well. And that's typically in the convalescent or recovery period. The antibody IgG can be identified specific to this virus, and that test can tell us if we've passed the acute phase or the late acute phase. Now, it is very difficult to predict how long these kinds of phases will happen in the individuals. This virus tends to shed itself sometimes unexpectedly. And so the course of this virus typically is not as typical of viruses as we've seen in the past. But when you talk about, in general, tests and testing, this is the goal of tests, to understand if there are viral genomes available or being replicated, as well as proteins, which are called antigens, and if our bodies responded. If so, is it in the acute late phase or in the convalescent phase? Just to let you know, this is how virus testing works. And we've learned a tremendous amount from the HIV era many years ago about how to do this. And I think the tests that we have thus far are very helpful to help us understand where we are in this disease. Next slide. So what do we have in the future? We have a lot of work to do, I think. Remember, as I mentioned, we've been doing this less than a year, so we don't have a long-term understanding of what the sequela of an infection, especially a severe or critical infection, may be. It may contribute to progressive cardiovascular illness, as Dr. Aleman mentioned, long-term residual problems with coagulation or inflammation or immune sensitization. And our future investigations, as you hear every day in the media, vaccination, certainly antiviral medications, and further discovery are going to be required for us to overcome this pandemic and move forward. Now, many scientists, just to let you know, believe that the coronaviruses that cause a common cold may many thousands of years ago been very virulent, and we have learned as a species to deal with it. So hopefully over time we'll be able to get the vaccination and immunities we need to disrupt this pandemic and get our lives back. So I'm going to actually stop there and see if there are any questions from the audience. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here and for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Adamson. I'm Jarita Hartfield. I'm the Communications Director for the Austin AHA. And we do have a question that has come through from Sean Kemp. And his question is, how long does it take for your body to test positive to COVID after contracting the disease?
If the virus is being replicated, as I mentioned, in the earliest phase of incubation, which is you've contacted the virus, it's starting to replicate. It may not be causing symptoms, but it's replicating and shedding viruses that can be detected with the viral genome tests or the a little bit later, the antigen test. So it really depends on when the virus starts to replicate in your body after you contact the virus. But that's fairly early, and many times, if not most times, before you develop any symptoms.
Thank you. At this time, are there any other questions? And if you have any, please drop them into the chat box. Oh, we have one from Andrew Schumacher. What are the risk factors that we are seeing with the highest rates of hospitalization?
Yeah, I touched a little bit on that, but the highest risk patient population or person population seems to be people who already have cardiovascular disease, such as high blood pressure, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure. Those are folks that already have some substrate of inflammation set up, especially as this triad of obesity, hypertension, and diabetes brings the metabolic syndrome. So that inflammatory state seems to be one that is poorly responsive to an infection with the coronavirus. So people with those conditions, the elderly, all of whom are at risk over the age of around 70. That population as well is at higher risk.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your questions, Dr. Adamson. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. If there's no other question, and thank you very much for those questions, by the way, and thanks again to the American Heart team for allowing me this opportunity to present to you today. So here to highlight the American Heart Association's national response is a good friend of mine and a colleague who now is the Chief Science and Medical Officer of the American Heart Association, Dr. Mariel Jessup. Dr. Jessup is responsible for leading the association's science enterprise, which includes science and medical strategies and key strategic science relationships. And I'm personally excited, and I think we all are excited to have her here with us today. Dr. Jessup?
Well, thank you so much, Phil, for that kind introduction. I want to first thank you most sincerely to Greg and Jim for your leadership in the Austin Heart Ball, and it's almost like building up to the Super Bowl. You're having multiple events, and that's very exciting, and we appreciate your efforts. And I also want to thank Dr. Alamad and Dr. Adamson for their leadership in not only spreading the science, but showing the way to other science people that we need to be engaged with the American Heart Association, because it is an ever-growing and an evergreen circle. I too, as Phil said, had my first grant from the American Heart Association, and it's just so amazing. If you happen to be the good fortune of being in a room with a lot of cardiovascular scientists, so many of them got their start through the American Heart Association. So I want to be able to just talk a little bit about what the American Heart Association did during these terrible months of the pandemic. And as Phil said, at the beginning, we knew nothing. Remember, back in those days, we were wiping off our groceries and leaving packages on the front door for 2 days because we were worried about this transmission from services that we call fomites. Now we know that it's unlikely that you'll contract the disease from things like that, and we feel more knowledgeable about what we can and cannot do. And some people would argue that we're not taking care enough as the spike in numbers would increase. But what the American Heart Association was just horrified to understand is that the very people who we had been providing funds for research about and preventative programs for and advocacy on behalf of our people with cardiovascular disease and stroke, they were the very people who were most susceptible to the devastating effects of this virus. And so we quickly made 2 major commitments, and I'm just going to share those with you briefly. Number 1, we immediately decided we would develop a granting mechanism for rapid response grants about the intersection of the virus and cardiovascular disease. And we put out the request for application and asked for a return response within 3 weeks. So it was in the end of March and early April, a response came back. We received 750 applications. That's the largest number we've ever received for a single application. So that embarrassment of riches, we said, well, how are we going to review all these? So we put out a second call, and we had 150 science volunteers that agreed to do 2 different series of reviews in a week's time to get the answers. It was so remarkable to be a part of that, to understand first how urgent the need was, and second, the remarkable reach of the scientists that were committed to finding some answers. And so we were initially able to give 11 awards and a coordinating center, and then we found through donors able to fund 5 more, so 16 investigators. And those investigators and their research focused on a wide variety of things, including repurposing of drugs to treat the COVID infection, and heart biopsies to look at how the virus may attack the heart, to blood coagulation, because remember the very early recognition that there was something wrong with blood clotting in patients who had COVID. The response was so rapid and so of high quality that at our scientific sessions, which just concluded on Tuesday, our kind of Super Bowl, where the highest science is presented from all over the world, some of those scientists reported out on their findings. So, and that investigations continues. It was truly a remarkable thing to watch. And then the second thing that I want to tell you about is that as the disease began to spread throughout the United States, 2 of our science volunteers from the great state of Texas, Dr. James DeLamos and Dr. Sandeep Das from UT Southwest in Dallas, said we need to develop a registry of these patients to understand just how widespread cardiovascular and stroke complications are. They came to us one weekend in early April, and by the end of the week, our fantastic staff from our Get With The Guidelines registry team had a case report form developed, and by the end of April, we had an up and running registry of all patients. Now we have over 20,000 patients enrolled in this registry across all of the United States. And the patients that were entered into the registry really reflected the diversity of this country. We went out of our way to go to hospitals who might not have the resources to do this, either in person power or in IT technical power. And we got funds from donors to help them do that so that we could get hospitals that served underrepresented communities. As a result, we have a very diverse patient population. The results from those registry data, where we collected days and days of laboratory data as well, were also presented at scientific sessions, some of them even at the same session where Dr. Anthony Fauci presented his lecture on the COVID. So those 2 efforts, where we spent over $2.5 million to get answers fast that are needed for our community, I think are just a snapshot of what the American Heart Association can do and has done in the last few months. It's been breathtaking to watch this pandemic, breathtaking to watch the impact on patients with cardiovascular disease and stroke. And it's been a true honor and privilege to be part of an organization that has responded in such a meaningful way. I hope that you feel that way too about the American Heart Association, because it is trying to answer the big need in every community about preventing cardiovascular disease and stroke and ensuring that every person has a right to a healthy, long life. And we have to work hard to make sure that's there. So I'm happy to answer some questions as well. I know, Doretta, you were saying there was one question that sort of went by. Did you want me to answer that? What was the question, please?
Marian Zion asked the question, what are the most pressing factors that researchers and doctors are experiencing at this time? What do you think will be first on your list of things we need to tackle very quickly now that we're seeing another uptick?
Sure. I think that we need to get the vaccines distributed, and that is a really complex logistical problem because, as everybody probably knows, one of the Pfizer drug needs to be stored at extreme temperatures, cold temperature, and both drugs you need two actual vaccines, two shots, in order to have the full benefit. So the companies have to manufacture the vaccines, and then they have to be distributed, and there has to be a pattern of who's going to get first and who will get second. So that's something that we have not experienced before. And number two, we have to get people willing to take the vaccine. Our country seems like a country of individualists, and on the best of years, only 50% of Americans get the influenza vaccine that's been around for a long time and has been proven to save lives. So I think we've got to work on getting the message out, not only for everyone to get the flu vaccine this year, but to get the COVID vaccine. I think finally we have to work really hard to get people to understand that when they have a disturbing symptom that may be a manifestation of cardiovascular disease or stroke, they need to go to the emergency room. And so we've started a campaign called Don't Die of Doubt, because what we're seeing all across the country, and I suspect you've seen this in Austin as well, that there's a steady, normally a steady admission of people with severe arrhythmias or irregular heartbeats and heart attacks and strokes, and those numbers are markedly down everywhere. So either all of those events have stopped occurring, which is pretty unlikely, or people are just refusing to come to the hospital because they're afraid. And so they're dying at home. And this, or they're delaying their care. So a patient who might have had a completely recovered heart after a heart attack that was intervened early are waiting at home only to have complications of heart failure after their delay. So that's why we're working hard to get people to speak up, come to the emergency room, don't die of doubt, and get your flu shot.
Thank you, Dr. Jessup. I have one more question from Richard Roll. And this question is pretty interesting, and I'll open it up to you, Dr. Al-Ahmad and Dr. Adamson as well, is what do you perceive the level of risk to be for adolescents who are involved in competitive sports who contract COVID-19?
Well, that's so interesting. And I do want to hear what Dr. Adamson and Dr. Al-Ahmad said. It is an area that is really not studied very well at all. In fact, we are right now working with the American Society of Sports Medicine. They actually have reached out to a Division I athletes between 18 and 24 and have started a registry and are trying to follow these older adults or older athletes, they're young adults really, and to look at how many of them actually have inflammation of the heart and when it's safe for them to go back to regular sports. And so for adolescents who seem to be able to mount a greater immune response and don't seem to be as affected by the virus, we haven't seen as often the comments or the observations about myocarditis. But I'd be interested if Dr. Al-Ahmad or Dr. Adamson has any other information for that particular patient population.
No, I agree with you. I think we still have a lot to learn from this. One of the things, there may be some genetic factors. Why do some people who are young get extremely sick, whereas some people who are older, just it's not that bad for them? So genetic factors, and I don't know, but there's a possibility that over years we'll see sequelae of this. Again, we don't know yet, and so this is something we'll be very interested in looking at in the future.
That's such a good comment, because many people might not know, but the great epidemic, the flu epidemic that we had in 1918 and 1919, a number of years later, maybe decades later, we began to notice a higher incidence of Parkinson's disease in those survivors. And so we are looking at a long-term registry, and it will be long-term, because we need to see if there's going to be long-term sequelae of COVID-19 as well. Phil, have you heard any additional things about the particular risks for adolescents?
Well, I think not much more than what's been said. I do know that in my old stomping grounds at the University of Oklahoma in the athletic department, there's an overabundance of caution because of the observations that young people, even when they have minimally symptomatic disease, have some evidence of myocardial involvement and inflammation. So there is a protocol in most institutions, Division 1A at least, in which young athletes have to go through a series of imaging and convalescence before returning to full participation. But it is certainly an area that we must evaluate over time because of the substrates that could develop from that inflammatory insult during the infection.
Right.
Thank you, doctors. I appreciate you. Jim?
Thank you, Dr. Jessup, and thank you, Dr. Alamad and Dr. Adamson, for joining us today as well. Like the AHA, Texas Mutual is committed to supporting this community through COVID-19. Even though we can't be together in the same room just yet, we can stand together as a relentless force and fight together for longer, healthier lives. As you can imagine, and as you just heard, the work of the AHA is more important than ever. And now we've come to the part of the program I've been looking forward to, recognizing the Heart Ball of Austin's 2021 sponsors. These companies have already stepped up to generously invest in the mission of the American Heart Association. Let's take a look.
My name is Robert Nagel, and on behalf of St. David's Healthcare, we are honored to once again serve as the presenting sponsor of the 23rd Annual Heart Ball of Austin, and to support the American Heart Association in their mission to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. We hope you'll join us in the fight against heart disease and stroke.
Hi, I'm Jim Koloff with Texas Mutual Insurance Company. Texas Mutual is proud to support the American Heart Association in the 2021 Heart Ball of Austin.
Hi, this is Greg Houston, Vice President with J. Dunn Construction Company, and we are thrilled to support the 2021 Heart Ball as a platinum sponsor this year.
DPR Construction is proud to be a 2021 Heart Ball sponsor.
Hi, I'm Teresa Ellington with Healthcare Facilities Development. We are committed to a sponsorship of the 2021 Heart Ball of Austin. We are proud supporters of the American Heart Association.
BK Synergy Insurance is committed as a 2021 Heart Ball sponsor.
We are a proud supporter of the American Heart Association.
All of us as team constructors are proud to support the 2021 Heart Ball campaign, benefiting the American Heart Association.
Hi, I'm Shane Hessen. On behalf of my employer, Endeavor Real Estate, I want to say how thrilled we are for sponsorship this year for the Heart Ball, and we look forward to working with the American Heart Association.
We here at Estes and Synacori Builders are proud to extend our sponsorship into the 2021 Heart Ball campaign. Thank you, American Heart Association, for your educational leadership and heart disease awareness.
Hi, I'm Corey Breimer, CEO of BRICOM. BRICOM is a proud sponsor of the Heart Ball campaign. We hope you'll join us.
Hi, my name is John Rector. I'm the managing partner of KPMG's Austin office, and we are thrilled to be first-time sponsors of the Heart Ball, and we anxiously await the opportunity to see you all there.
On behalf of Power Design, we are honored to be sponsors for the 2021 Heart Ball.
Winstead PC is a proud supporter of the Austin 2021 Heart Ball.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you very much to our 2021 sponsors, and especially the Heart Ball of Austin's presenting sponsor, St. David's Healthcare. This year we have an ambitious goal to raise $1 million for the life-saving work of the American Heart Association, and we're off to a great start. You saw the companies that have already stepped up to sponsor, and we hope you'll join us as a sponsor if you haven't already. To help fund this mission of the American Heart Association. So with that, thank you all for your time today and for your support of the American Heart Association, and have a great rest of your day.
Help me share my load. From a dark and lovely street to the bright side of the road. And into this life we're born. Baby, sometimes I don't know why. At times it goes by so fast. In the twinkling of an eye, let's enjoy it while we can. Let's enjoy it while we can. Help me share my load. Help me share my load. On the dark and lonely street to the bright side of the road. Cricket. Maybe sometime I don't know why. I don't know. Can't seem to go by so fast. In the twinkling of an eye. Let's enjoy it while we can. Let's enjoy it while we can. Help me sing my song. Help me sing my song. Little darling, come along. On the bright side of the road. On the dark and lonely street.